It is universally accepted to distinguish levels of morality as something being either good or evil. Looking back in history, people tend to judge Mother Teresa as good and Adolf Hitler as evil. No doubt their actions appear to be, and thinking about these does indeed make people feel good or bad. But what actually makes something good or evil? I put it to you that neither the external appearance nor personal feelings about actions or outcomes makes something good or not. Stick around for a new perspective. Hi there, and welcome to another episode of New Perspectives, a video series where we take a fresh look at spiritual concepts. We have previously mentioned in our perspective on peace that heavenly good is required for it. So this time we are looking at the spiritual quality of good, and by extension its opposite, evil. I'm confident that you will find information in this video valuable for your personal spiritual journey, no matter what you believe is. In Matthew chapter 12 we read, "Make the tree good and its fruit will be good, or make the tree bad and its fruit will be bad, for a tree is known by its fruit. The good person brings forth good things out of his good treasury, and the evil person evil things out of his evil treasury." As we already discussed in my perspective on judgment, the quality of the action or person is not determined by the outcome, but by the intention or ultimate purpose. People call something good when it feels good or seems nice or kind, but I put it to you that there is a fundamental distinction between doing what feels good and doing what does good. The answer to what good actually is lies in the area of doing good. In other words, where the effect or outcome achieves what is good. Thus, it is good to look at the ultimate effect or outcome rather than the act or process itself. But this still does not explain what good actually is. Let me ask you, do you believe there is such a thing as morality or moral absolute that defines what is good? What do you think makes something good good and something bad evil? On what basis ought we to distinguish between the two if we cannot simply look at the appearance? And would it be reasonable for us to determine what is good by how we feel about it personally? Please leave your answers and comments below and subscribe to come back later. Many people do call that which they find pleasing good and what they do not bad. But simply because it feels good doesn't mean it actually is good, and I think that is pretty much self-evident. I enjoy a glass of cold beer at times or deep-fried fish and chips, but it doesn't make it good for me. Likewise, I find it pleasing when people agree with me, but that doesn't mean that narcissism is good for me either, and I need protection and trigger warnings for bad people who disagree. Likewise, giving money to a beggar isn't good if it isn't supported by a good use. For example, if it aids feeding an addiction. But I'll discuss more of this in an upcoming perspective on charity. Feeling good and actual good are two very different things. Leaving aside these basic natural examples, and all joking aside, I want to turn your focus on objective qualities of good and evil, and I put it to you that there is indeed a moral absolute, just like I believe there is an ultimate reality. I believe that without a purposeful creation, as I touched on in my perspective on creation, there can be no right or wrong apart from some consensus or personal feeling. In other words, there can be no moral absolute or objective standard on morality to define what is good without having an intrinsically objective purpose. With a relative purpose, life would only hold the value that we place on it subjectively, individually. And this means automatically that there is no objective moral right or wrong, and thus no good or evil. In order for something to be objectively good, it must have meaning and purpose with lasting positive effect. It must be constructive and not destructive, and only permanent order is capable of that. Therefore, for something to be objectively good, it must work in harmony with reality according to order as it exists objectively. Now we can call this reality God, but call it whatever you like. The terms God and good can be used interchangeably in my opinion, and as said by Jesus in Matthew, "Why do you call me good? No one is good except God alone." Or in Matthew 19, "Why do you ask me what is good? There is only one who is good." I put it to you that a clear distinction between what is good and evil can be discovered in this interesting quote from Emanuel Swedenborg, where he describes the order of how our life's loves, our inner world, affect our thinking in his book Divine Providence. Heavenly love and its affections of good and truth and the consequent perceptions, together with the delights of these affections and their consequent thoughts, may be compared to a tree distinguished for its branches, leaves and fruits. The life's love is the tree, the branches with their leaves are the affections of good and truth with their perceptions, and the fruits are the delights of the affections with their thoughts. On the other hand, infernal love, with its affections of evil and falsity, which are lusts, together with the delights of these lusts and their consequent thoughts, may be compared to a spider in its surrounding web. The love is the spider. The lusts of evil and falsity with their inner subtleties are the net-like threads nearest to the den of the spider, and the delights of these lusts with their crafty devices are the remoter threads, where flies are caught on the wing, entangled and eaten. Good, like a tree, is outward-looking and seeks to be of use. In fact, perhaps it may be defined as use or purpose itself. In a similar way, I describe peace as being love in practice. Let me describe good as being love of usefulness in action. Good seeks to support something outside of itself, to seek an outcome for positive, useful outcomes' sake, rather than for ulterior motives of personal or selfish gain or reward. Usefulness is ultimately always for the sake of others and contribute to some external need. Helping others becoming more useful increases their overall potential for good, thus good only achieves and supports use. Therefore, good is productive and produces more potential good, which in essence is unlimited. Giving of what you have is, spiritually speaking, limitless. Consider a community where all are seeking to serve others in a way they can. There is never a lack of care or support around, and everyone would receive as much, if not more, than what they give. How good would it be to live in such a community? Would you call that good or heaven? Would you like to live in such a community? This can indeed be compared to a fruit tree which produces seed that is capable of producing ever more fruit trees, and so forth. This same example can be found in all of nature's reproductive forms. Therefore, only creation, production, use, effort, and objective for selfless reasons can be good. Good requires a purpose outside of itself. Good, therefore, requires God. Thus God equals good and good equals God. Emanuel Swedenborg writes the following about good and says as much in his book Canons of the New Church. Since all good is from God, and good and use are one, and since the created universe is the fullness of uses in forms, it follows that the created universe is the fullness of God. So therefore, in my opinion, abundance and life are the end result of good. On the other hand, therefore, its opposite, evil, like a spider, is inward-looking and seeks to serve the self only. Evil is only concerned with self, and therefore the terms evil and self or selfishness can be used synonymously. Evil seeks to dominate and control others to manipulate the outcomes for personal gain. I describe evil as the love of self in action because this is destructive. Taking from others is self-limiting. Consider a community where all are seeking to serve themselves only, where each was trying to dominate and rule. how long would you think this would last? How good would it be to live in such a community? This can indeed be compared with the behaviour of a spider sitting in its web, trying to take what it can. Perhaps to use another example, a black hole absorbing and destroying everything around it. Or even more, the Dead Sea, if you take a scriptural example, with the living water flowing in, but nothing flowing out, and death being the result. I hope this gives you a new perspective on good and evil and the timeless battle between these which we all fight in our minds. Truly, our internal character affects our outer world, and each little step to good brings heaven closer to home. Before I go, let me offer you an opportunity to put this into practice and give you a practical task to take away. For those wanting to take it up over the next 2 weeks, consider the thoughts you entertain and the actions you perform in light of their eventual usefulness to others. Well, thank you for watching. Please subscribe and share or leave comments below, and we'll see you next time.